Really, how bad was it for you? Internal demons are sometimes too strong to defeat alone. Problems that seem insurmountable. Can you say it's never crossed your mind? Honestly? Reality is hard to deal with sometimes. It's in substances that we often seek refuge. Sadly, this doesn't always get to the root of the problem. Time and time again, we see the same story. Unfortunately, some of these stories don't have happy endings. Realizing the last pages of the book are blank, or even worse, ripped out. Pretty sobering thought, isn't it? It shouldn't be this way. Never should the story end like this. A bit heavy for an intro, eh? Let's lighten it up a bit. Stay strong. I want to tiptoe around cliches, but they do such a fine job with their economy of words. Keep going. Whatever the demon is in your life, drugs, alcohol, food, games, intrusive thoughts, whatever, you can overcome it. You got this. The peaks in life are nice, but the valleys, the tests, the despair, the hardships, this is where we forge the tools for our life. This is where we grow. This is where we learn. It may be scary staring at the peak of the mountain you have to climb, but always remember, the treasure you seek is in the cave you fear to enter. Be fearless. I'd like to give a special thank you to Frank Pietrangelo and Disco Dino Sicoli for their outstanding efforts in the ongoing battle to raise awareness for mental health back in my hometown. Keep up the great work, boys. Today's episode features Kyeongsup Choi. He's a young whippersnapper wise beyond his years that burst into the Ulsan expat scene like a bat out of hell. It left many wondering who this guy was. He took us on a roller coaster ride in this episode that features a little bit of everything. After living in various countries throughout the world, he describes the resulting identity challenges he faced thus far, as well as his decision to pass on the road well traveled to create his own.
You are now tuned into This Korean Life with your hosts, Brian and Nate.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of This Korean Life. Today we have K, or as you may know him from Ulsan Online, Choi Kyeongsup. I noticed you the first time on Ulsan Online when you were translating Corona information or whatever. You were just a name. I assumed a regular Korean that was whatever, wanted to give a hand to the foreign community. And then you wrote this, and it stopped me dead on like a Tuesday morning. Who is this guy? And then I had connected you to the coding meetup with Ben, and I asked him, and he told me you were 24 at the time. It was shocking. But anyways, I want to share the quote and kind of the situation that led me to recognize you as the special individual you are. For people who aren't in country, basically coronavirus hit Korea hardest in Daegu first, right? And this was an outbreak from the Shincheonji church. You know, when a pandemic starts to rip across a country, it's so easy to point fingers, and especially this was related to a church which is kind of regarded as a cult, yeah. And people weren't too happy with it. So, you know, when you go online, the environment can be poisonous. Everyone's shitting on the church, and it's easy to jump on board with that. But I'm gonna read the comments leading up, and then what Kay wrote, and it was deadly. At 24 years old, I would love to say that I would have said the same thing, but in fact, I would have jumped on the shit wagon and started talking smack about them too. So basically, the comments leading up to it, there was another confirmed case from a Shincheonji member, and everyone's saying, well, what do they, when they go, do they spit in each other's mouths? What are they doing here? Yeah, basically, you came in with, in my experience, it's the shaking hands when greeting and the holding hands when singing hymns. I don't think it's the religion that draws people to the churches. I think it's the human contact and positive community that mainstream society lacks. Dude, unreal. Are you sure you're 24? You got like the wisdom of like a 70-year-old man. You know, we just had the recent outbreak on August 15th, which led to 400 cases. We spiked at 400, I think.
About
Countrywide, about 400 cases, and still inside me, there's that anger. I'm just like, God damn, why can't they just stay home? And there's still that anger inside me, and I always go back to that and like, this guy's like 10 years younger than me, and he's got such a, I don't know, just the way you approach it, and that wasn't even the only example. I've seen people jumping on you like, what are they gonna do for? How's the city gonna help my business? Blah blah blah. And I mean, these are Friday, Saturday nights at late 10, 11 o'clock, and I wake up in the morning and see that you're handling these situations or angry people with such, what do you call it, like
grace.
Yeah, with such grace. Like you're the only guy.
At 24, I would have been sitting at the bar, like he says, jumping on the bandwagon with my own chirps.
But dude, you set out. I remember you put one post and you had 7 citations. You referenced 7 different journal articles. So, anyways, that's how I met you, or that's how I became aware of the force that is you. And I bet a lot of people out there, all of our 10 listeners. Yeah, we got about 10, about 10,000. All the listeners out there, people in Ulsan especially. Who are wondering a little more about you. I'm gonna shut up and let you give a short introduction about yourself and just tell us what.
Just before you get into it, I just want to say on behalf of the expats in Ulsan and even Daegu and stuff, guys who are reposting your stuff, thank you so much for the work you've done and the time and the effort you put in, because it was the same. My first impression was, who is this guy? Where'd he come from? You shot in like a bat out of hell. And I was like, where'd this guy come from? And it was a voice of reason, and you brought a well-educated perspective and articulated your thoughts and ideas very, very well. And it's something that usually we feel like the Koreans, it's usually us against them or them against us. And it's hard to find guys that are on your team, especially online, when you can type whatever you want and don't have to be responsible for it. So it kind of felt like finally we had someone on our team that understood a little bit about our point of view, because I think a lot of foreigners do understand the Korean perspective, and some haven't adapted or fully adjusted yet. But it was so nice to have a voice of reason and someone who could
a bridge between
between the two. Yeah. And so to have that, I think that's, at first there was a lot of skeptics, and some people were challenging you, and it would have been really easy to lose your cool and go off. But yeah, you handled it so gracefully and very, very well, especially for your age. It's incredible. Yeah. So go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself. And like you said, they only know you as the Ulsan Korean Center for Disease Control branch president here with all the data. So tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Nate, for the kind words and those compliments. I really wish I was the person that you're describing me as, but guess I'm more than just my writing on Ulsan online, more than just things on Facebook. I mean, I have flaws, I have mistakes, and Brian, thank you.
And that's what we're here today to talk about.
I wrote down here, this guy seems way too pure and perfect. Is there any dirt on him? Like, there's nothing on this guy. Nobody can, like, you can't be caught up in your stories, nothing.
Yeah, well, Brian, you constantly tell me that I'm very mature and wise for my age, and I guess it's because I have like 50 years worth of mistakes and failures to learn from. Yeah. I have done a lot throughout my life, maybe a little bit too much, because when I was 7, my dad was pursuing his PhD in geology in Texas A&M. So I grew up 4 years in America, not the U.S., America, in Texas. I did the Scholastic Book Fair, I ate the square pizzas, I made mud pies, I learned English. Yeah. And it was fun and it was great. Is
that called English in Texas?
I guess so, but yeah, and yeah, I guess it became a part of me. the Western influence. It was very much internalized, and it does influence a lot of my thinking to this day. But I guess, well, my dad loves to tell two stories about me. The first story is how I stopped a couple of bullies from bullying my little brother, and even though I barely spoke English at that time, but he would tell everybody that I stopped those bullies and say, no, we Korean, we don't speak English. And he would tell that story all the time.
I thought you were going to say you gave him a roundhouse kick to the noggin.
Yeah, and I guess that shows how I'm very empathetic. I have to stand up to something when I see something is wrong. But I've also made a few mistakes. I've also been on the wrong side of things. I've also thought I knew more about things when I barely knew anything. I'm still young, I'm still brash, I still overreach on occasion, but
As we all do.
as we all do. I guess I'm still learning, but I focus on that. I strive to learn, I strive to improve. And another story my dad tells is how one day, like a couple of months in, after when I was like 8 years old, he told me that I didn't want to go to school, and I would just grab at this wooden table we had, and while my brothers got into the car, he had to literally pry me from the table to get me into the car. And I think that shows another part of me, how I'm sensitive, how I get hurt very easily. And that part of me does lead to a couple of flaws. It leads to a lot of misunderstandings, but it also helps me empathize with a lot of people because I can understand what people are going through when they're in environments they don't fit in, when they feel persecuted, or when they feel like they're being attacked. I understand that because I've been feeling that way since I was 8 years old, I guess. And like after 4 years in Texas, I came back to Korea and I thought, finally, at least in America, I was always the odd one out. I was the Korean, I was the foreigner, especially in a small town in Texas. And I thought I would come back to Korea, my home, and I would finally fit in. I would no longer have to be the outsider.
But your Korean wasn't flawless, right?
My Korean wasn't flawless, and I had this Western style of thinking. I stood out too much. I was a little bit too good at English while all the other kids struggled, and I was bullied relentlessly, and I was so miserable as a little kid because even though I was like 11 or 12, I just realized that there's no place in this world where I belong in, and that's
At 11 or 12?
At 11 or 12, and that stuck with me for a long while. I just realized that I don't fit in Korea, I don't fit in America, and I was very depressed for...
So it's amazing that you had those thoughts at such a young age. I mean, I think we have those thoughts. I mean, I've been abroad almost 20 years now, but I have those thoughts also going home, that it's exciting to see everyone for 2 days and then the luster wears off and nobody cares. I can't relate. I haven't lived there for so long, and I also feel like I don't fit in, but Koreans let me know all the time that I don't fit in here. But to have those thoughts at 11 and 12 is pretty wild. I mean, especially there's a lot of kids who do that, going for 3 or 4 years and come back, and it just seems like they fit right in. And I'm not saying they don't feel different inside, but that they're still Korean, they speak Korean, and a year later you must have caught up. Did it change or no?
I guess a little, but...
Or how long were you back for?
I was back for, elementary 5, 6, first year. I didn't even finish the first year of middle school. And I was swept away to Singapore.
Oh, no way.
For 2 years. And yeah, I attended middle school in Singapore. And
so was that a relief?
Yeah, was that a breath of fresh air?
So you say that's like almost 3 years maybe you were back? Was that, I didn't fit in Korea, so I get another chance to try somewhere else? Or was that, oh my God, not again?
I guess a little bit of both, because I was struggling to fit into Korea, but
you must have started settling in after 2 or 3 years, no?
Not really. Maybe a little, but no. There was always that part of me that always stood out, I guess. And a really painful part of it was that I'm actually the middle child. I have an older brother and a younger brother, and
Oh yeah, that's a well documented. Nate's got 2 on each side, doesn't he?
No,
You're the
one
super
on-
middle.
I know, I got 1 above and 3 below. But did your brothers also feel the same thing? Did you guys ever talk about it?
no, they acclimated very well. They had their own issues, but my issue was always not fitting in, I guess.
Right.
And yeah, and then I went to Singapore, and I was just there for 2 years, and then we had to go to the Middle East for Dad's work, I guess. There was, I don't remember the details properly, but there was a terrorist attack on certain Koreans in Yemen, and yeah, I don't really follow the logic. I don't remember the reasoning, but because there was a terrorist attack in Yemen, he had to bring us to Yemen. Yeah. No, wait. I think what it was that my dad's company, Kyeongsup, because certain people they were working for Kyeongsup were thought of in danger, they were bringing the family members of the employees to certain safe places in Yemen. And my dad had to bring his family members to certain safe places in Yemen, even though we were in Singapore at the time. And I was in Yemen for a couple of months. And I guess in Yemen, it really opened my eyes about how
The world works?
how privileged I was
Absolutely.
because I was in Texas, US, the richest country in the world. I was in Korea, pretty safe, pretty developed. I was in Singapore, a trade hub. It's millionaires everywhere. I thought that was how the world worked, but I was in Yemen and I saw people interacted with people who lived on less than $1 a day, who couldn't even take safety, shelter, food, and water for granted. And I saw these businesses that had to live off of the Western world, I guess, of bootleg DVDs and bootleg games, and who had to like rip off of the Western world because they couldn't make their own, I guess. Because Yemen, even because I left before the fighting and the wars got really bad, but there was always poverty, there was always starvation, and
So you were in a safe place there?
I was in a safe place, but we still went out and
Right.
we still interacted with people, and
Is the safe place there like a gated community or?
yeah, kind of like a gated community.
Okay.
But
But as soon as you leave that, you're in the regular Yemen.
yeah, but I remember certain stuff like little kids just looking at me with these little haunting eyes, and just I realized that
You're a lot more privileged than you know.
yeah, I was a lot more privileged than I know. And I remember getting into this car, and there was this little kid who held the door open, and there was this desperation in his eyes, and he was even like 1/10 of my weekly allowance then would have meant a lifetime change for him.
Right.
And I wanted to do something for that kid, but the bodyguard, the escort that we had, just pushed him away and just
Yeah.
Do you still feel now, after all your experiences, that you wanted to do something for him?
yeah. And
Do you, in all your travels and your time, have you ever seen the effects of what happens when you do that? Because I used to live in Africa and I had very similar things every single day. Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing they told us going there, and we were affiliated with UN, our NGO, and they said, don't give anybody anything.
Yeah.
For 6 months, don't give anybody anything. Because the mentality is that if I give the first kid a piece of bread, the whole village is going to line up for bread and knock on my door every day as the savior who has the bread, the t-shirt, the water, whatever.
I guess so.
And then you can't deal with yourself, and it takes you down and you end up leaving. Because you just can't help that many people. You're only one person. So I run into that all the time, and someone is desperately in need of something, but if I help them, the whole village is going to line up and bang down my door. And it's just impossible. You can't do it. And it's a really hard thing to deal with. But that's why I was just wondering if you, I think that's probably a good thing, because every day the people saw you, they would have attacked you and been, oh, please, help. And it's really, really hard to process.
I know, but I felt this immense guilt because we were staying in nice hotels, eating really good food, and we had some parties, I guess. We hung out with some ambassadors' kids, and these were spoiled kids who flew first class, who had the fanciest toys and stuff like that. And the disparity
Right.
there
Yeah.
when like less than 100 meters away, where kids couldn't even take basic shelter for granted. It was
Demoralizing.
it was demoralizing. It messed with my mind. It was this horrible guilt that racked.
I was not living with ambassadors. I was in a village outside the refugee camp. And I learned that if I did something on the camp, if I could provide food for one person, they would walk 8 kilometers to my house the next morning to ask for something else because they saw me give it to another person. And I was not living, the rich and to-do life. But I felt the same guilt that you can't help those. And you have to say either, listen, you say no to everybody or say yes, and you'll probably end up leaving in a week or 2 weeks because you can't handle the emotion.
I think that's what our friend Scott Rotzel, he worked for an NGO in
Cambodia. Cambodia Children's Fund.
Cambodia Children's Fund. And that basically, I think it was a Hollywood director, wasn't it? It was a Hollywood director who went there and saw kids like hanging out in a garbage dump, and that was their means of food. And I mean, they'd get some recyclables and resell it. And he went, like Nate was saying, you can do all or nothing. And he went all in. He sold everything and said, you know what? Boom. I'm living here, and he gave up this life in Hollywood to
and it's one of the most one of the
been
best
building,
charities or NGOs in Cambodia.
Still getting bigger.
Very successful.
Wild, but that's, I mean, to sacrifice your whole life, that's not something that's not everyone's calling, or I don't think it's your duty either to do it.
But a lot of people just can't handle it, and I don't blame any. I mean, it's very, like you say, like I was there for 2 years. And in about 16 countries in West Africa, and everywhere you went. And I said, you could have had no money, no education, no anything, just been a vagabond traveling the world, and they would think you're the savior because that's what they've been shown. That's what they've been taught. Even, I had the scruffy beard. I had nothing. I had flip-flops and a pair of shorts and a tank top. But they think you're there to save them. And I think a lot of that, comes from the missionaries that zip in, zip out, do their thing. And my experience in the refugee camp with 7 different denominations of churches there was that every week, 3 or 4 of them would come in with these savior trucks of, we have bread, we have t-shirts, we have water. And then they run away and they don't come back for a week. But the whole time they're coming to see me because I'm there every day. Hey, you have to give us some bread. You have to give us some water. How come you can't give us some rice? And so I didn't like that feeling. And I kind of despise those visits of, churches at home are giving money to the pot to go and make Africa good. It's not how it works. I'm there every day for a year, and you guys are coming and going, and they look to me for the same support, which I can't provide them.
And you can see that that occurs everywhere. That's the show up for one day of volunteering and snap a selfie and pump yourself up on the social media.
Well, I remember the one organization or the one church had dug 2 wells in the refugee camp. Great, they came for 2 weeks, dug 2 wells. Okay, there's fresh water. They go home, put it in the newsletter. Blah blah blah. We saved the camp. We had refugees from 15 different nations, about 14,000 refugees, and within 6 or 8 months, the well was contaminated, and a lot of the refugees got sick. But that doesn't make the newsletter. And I'm there with other people who have to deal with all these fallouts. Meanwhile, they're celebrating their accomplishments back home in the church. So that really irritated me while I was there. I really got a new perspective of how this system works. So
experiencing all those, you said, those kind of heart-wrenching situations. I know you were still young, but did you reflect back on your time in Korea and be like, my problems weren't so big, or did it still bother you?
Yeah, I felt that. I felt like,
the bullies.
Yeah.
The bullies aren't so bad. I got a house and water, and Hey, you were how old in Singapore? 14.
I was in middle school. I didn't go to high school, but
I got the math as 14 to 16 here.
They call it secondary school there, but yeah, a little. No, reflecting on it, but at the time when I'm in the middle of the problems, it does seem like the biggest things in the world to me.
Absolutely, 100%.
Any problem that you'll see as you grow up, reflection is a huge part in life, and I mean we've all had problems Yeah, my high school was a really difficult time, and looking back, I go, oh my God! If I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be the hero I am today.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of growing and maturing, being able to introspect and being able to reflect on your past and to learn and to grow from it. And I say those things on Facebook pop up 7 years ago, and I'm like, I did that? Oh, I would never do that now. What is that? But you have to be able to sit down and reflect and to grow from what you've experienced.
A really ironic thing is that I went from Yemen, and straight from there I went to Dubai, one of the richest places in the world.
Whoa, wow.
Yeah, and I spent like a year there, and I went to American school of Dubai, filled with rich kids, filled with sons and daughters of ambassadors, CEOs, CFOs, and
I got to ask you here.
yeah.
What did your dad do? Was he a
He's
KNOC.
right?
yeah.
But what,
he was chief of exploration, I believe.
okay.
He got his PhD in geology, and he found oil. Like, he examined the data, and he found the oil and natural gas deposits and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was there, and we had some really crazy times. I guess Dubai was the craziest time of my life because
That's what I pictured Dubai as.
yeah, you have young Western kids, and you have young Western kids with too much money to spend, and you have young Arab kids who grew up in a conservative world, but they have a lot of money and luxury, so they're very willing to rebel. And you hear about how Hamid crashed his Lamborghini and he just got a Ferrari as a replacement, and he's complaining about his Ferrari, and then it's unreal, and you see that, and then you see all the kids trying to outdo each other and bragging about like how they stayed in this fancy hotel, how their dad or their mom is this or this whatever. I think one kid was like, dad's was the CEO of Ford or something. I don't really quite remember, but these kids would do all of that. And
So where did you fit in that group? If these are the ultra rich, was there a lot of people like you whose parents had just expat jobs there?
oh yeah,
Or were you the far minority? Or
well, I guess it was an eclectic enough group that I wasn't really quite the outsider, but I was, I guess, the smart one, I guess. While all the kids, they went to school, but they didn't get really good grades, and they didn't try a lot because they knew they had trust funds, or they knew they would get a job in their dad's or whatever company. But I would get most of my schoolwork done. Whenever we were on group projects, I was the one doing the majority of the work. So I guess I was known for the kid with the good grades.
So how do you stay so focused in an environment full of so much of that? Is it knowing that you don't have that to fall back on? Or, I mean, I would, even if I was in your spot, I'd be out with those guys. I'd be tagging along and riding shotgun in the Ferrari replacement. How do you stay so focused to lead the groups and do the work?
Because they were, in a way, I guess, irresponsible, a little bit immature.
Right. And that would have been me.
And like, these kids would go swimming in the beaches, and then one kid would get stung by a jellyfish, and because they don't want to go telling their parents or stuff like that, they would call me up and go like, what do we do for a jellyfish sting or whatever?
Piss on his leg.
Piss on his leg, and then whatever. I'll come, and then I'll help do first aid, and whatever. This girl is struggling with biology homework, or was it biology? Marine biology. It was marine biology. And then she goes like, my parents will kill me if I don't get a good grade, and I'd help her out with her schoolwork. And oh my god, dude.
I tried that a few times in high school, but they weren't so willing to help.
all those little steps or extra efforts that builds character, and in the end you're the one benefiting from that, man.
I hope so. And well, they used to have these really idiotic parties called farm parties.
Farm parties?
Farm parties.
Oh god.
Where they would get
Lamborghini combines?
no, where they would, I wish it was that. They would get as much pharmaceuticals as meds or as drugs as
Skittle parties.
yeah, as their parents, as they could get from their parents, or as they could score, and they would put it in a bowl, and they'd just mix it up, and they would just randomly take them, and they would mix it with alcohol,
Oh, that's so stupid.
I know.
Those are at home. They're called Skittles parties. My sister is the nurse, and she has to deal with all those kids. What are you on? I don't know. Everybody goes to their grandparents and raids the medicine cabinet, comes to the party, dumps them in.
Yeah.
Because everybody's grandparents in Canada or America are on some kind of prescription, diabetes, blood pressure,
Smoking weed,
hypertension.
eating mushrooms, totally fine. You man, you start taking random pills. What if it's an upper or a downer? What if it's a blood thinner? You could die, man.
Exactly. These were immature, irresponsible kids who were just acting out and who were just taking stupid risks because they didn't have to deal with consequences their lives. And
regardless of what they do, it's not like you fail your class, you're not gonna go to university, you're not gonna get a job. They always had, like you said, they have the trust funds to fall back on.
Yeah, and the kids, they didn't look down on me because I was like poor or anything. They actually, a lot of them just wish they were me because I guess they didn't put a lot of effort into themselves. They didn't build themselves up.
Yeah,
and they saw me trying and they saw me practicing and getting good grades and getting good at certain stuff.
Money can be like it'll break your leg and then be your crutch.
Yeah, I guess too much of a crutch, too much of a training wheels maybe.
It's that superficial shell, which is the envy of everybody, but the inside is just empty.
Yeah,
there's nothing there.
Yeah, I remember this girl whose dad was a millionaire or something, and then she had everything. She was comfortable, but I was doing this drawing, and then she was in my math class, so she knew I was good at math. And then she was like, "Hey, you can draw too?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then she was like, "That's so unfair." But so many people will look to her life and say, "That is so unfair." But she looked at me being able to do math and draw, and then she goes like, "That's so unfair."
Dude, the grass is always greener.
Exactly, the grass is always greener.
Grass is always greener.
The grass is always greener.
So a year in Dubai, and then where did you go after that?
Well, then I came back to Korea. And I told my mom, I can't do it anymore. I cannot adjust to another school. I cannot do another group of friends. I cannot do that again. I'm just going to homeschool myself. And any other Korean mother would have said, no, you're going to school. You're going to go to Sky. You're going to get a good job and whatever.
Right.
But my mom was very understanding. She knew that her sons were different. She knew that we didn't walk the same paths as all the other Korean kids. And she found this global homeschool something academy, and so
sign your kids up, Nate.
Yeah, and then so that we could study at home, and then we could get accredited, and then we could get a GED, and then we could go for the SAT. And she supported me. She let me homeschool myself, and I got really good grades on my SATs. And
so I just want to go back a sec. You must have came home around second year or third year of high school, right?
I think I'm not quite sure. I didn't graduate high school.
No, that's what I mean. The most critical year of schooling in Korea is your third year of high school, where you're taking the standard academic tests.
Yeah.
Which is what no mother would ever let their kid not do that. So to be that understanding, my buddies just came back from Abu Dhabi, and they were with the Korean nuclear company, and they'd been there for 5 years. And this is a really interesting story. So Soho graduated, and he got into Western Michigan. Or first he was at University of Oregon, I think, and then he transferred to Western Michigan. Now he's studying aviation. He's going to be a pilot there. And his sister, Gio, is in high school too, second year or her junior year of high school. But it's so uncomfortable to think of assimilating back into Korean culture after 5 years there that they went back. Dad's transferred back to here now. He's living up close to just north of Pohang. And mom and daughter went back to finish high school in Abu Dhabi because they can't fathom, they can't even think of getting back into here for Gosam, the Sunung, and the national tests here.
It's weird how you get you get into that rutted path that that most people are on, and once you take a step back and you look, from as an outsider looking in, you're like, what are they doing?
If her mom could talk to your mom and you could talk to her, I'm sure they would do what you did, because now they would look at you and think, okay, he did good. He got into university, no problem.
well, actually, yeah, I do want to mention that because I know a lot of people would say drop out of university, don't walk your own path and stuff like that. But based on my experience, I'm a very, very small minority. it takes a certain kind of resilience, I guess, to walk your own path, because a lot of people will resist you. A lot of people will try to hammer you down to that conformity.
Sure.
And a lot of people will criticize you and say you shouldn't do this. Everyone else does this and stuff like that.
But then once you brush off the initial hammering, man, you come out smelling like roses on the other side, and then you're renowned for.
Yeah, but
You're moving where? Korea. North? South? It's pretty close. Why don't you go to like Italy or France? Because I'm going to Korea. Oh, are you sure? Did you really think about? Yeah, I did. I'm going to Korea, and you know I've been here 15, 16 years now. So
Sometimes, I mean, any motivational speaker or whatever, they'll always say, "Man, walk your own path. Don't listen to the haters, and just keep hammering on." Man.
So these two kids that came back, I play hockey with their father. We started the hockey teams in Ulsan in 2008, and the kids started playing with us before there was a kids team.
Yeah.
So I coached the kids. I taught them how to skate and how to play hockey from a very young age. So when they came back, we went for dinner with the family, and it blows my mind how mature they are compared to their Korean equivalents, how global they are, and their friends are from all over, and their friends are Arabs and Muslims and Christians and Buddhists and all skin colors. And it's amazing to me, the experience. And he was so hesitant to go there, and I said, Hyung, this is the best move you could do for you and your family. I mean, the job is what you do. You're good at it. The money is good. You're not going somewhere poor and difficult. There will be a transition period. But coming back, the reason you say you have to be resilient, she doesn't like it there now. She really is really homesick for Korea. And especially coming back for like a month and going back. Oh, if you just stay there, I think it's one thing. But watakata, coming back,
yeah,
Mom, I don't want to go back. I want to stay here. And she said, I don't like it. I want to stay in Korea. And I think that would be the motivation necessary to do that. And I think she's had a similar experience, like traveling all over the Middle East and seeing all those different kind of things. But yeah, all the power to you, man. I'm a big supporter of walking your own path. I love it. Good for you.
But it really takes a lot of
resilience.
Resilience and a certain mix of qualities, because you need resilience, you need hard work. I get up like at 6 a.m. almost every day so I can get started on all the things I want to accomplish. But not everyone can do that. I guess I learned that when I was homeschooled, when I would learn to manage my own schedule, to be productive.
You weren't coddled like a lot of the youth here. It sounds like we're taking a dump on Korea. I don't know how things work at home. But because I have no reference for how things work at home outside of my family. But it seems like here a lot of, even into university, man, you get a call from the mom like, my daughter's mark isn't high. Like, what?
I had it at Eunice. One guy came with his mom to challenge his grade. So then I have a question for you. Do you think that because you were moving around and going and coming in so many places, for me, that's all. I always like that it's so interesting and intriguing, and there's always discovering new things. Do you think did that keep you away from being in the corner on your phone all day, and that's how you were able to experience all these things? Because so many kids here lack experience and independence because they're tied to their phone. But being there with other multinational people at school who have different ways of raising kids, different ways of thinking, I mean, it must create a much bigger sense of independence for you and take you away from all the phones and games, or no? Because I think that's what holds back so many kids these days, is that they just aren't open to getting the experiences you did because they're too tied to their technology.
He's smiling. He's got a League of Legends gold status. No. No. Oh, no games?
My big brother is... Do you know TSM?
No.
My big brother used to be, I guess, world-class League of Legends player.
Wow.
No.
Really?
Man.
You can Google him and he comes up. He was in the original lineup for TSM, one of in North America's biggest teams. And he was like third best during season 2 or season 3, I guess.
Man,
wow.
Growing up, the only thing our parents said was like, turn that shit off. It's like...
Get outside and play?
No, not even that. Like, what's it going to do for you? You can't have a job playing video games.
Now every kid aspires to be a YouTuber or a pro gamer.
But look at the... it wasn't League of Legends. What's the other popular one in the States?
Overwatch?
Some kid won.
Warcraft.
Oh, Fortnite.
Fortnite.
The kid won like $3 million.
Yeah.
He's 15.
Fortnite's huge.
It's becoming huge. But my brother was able to walk that path because my mom and dad, well, they didn't fully support it, but I guess they tolerated it because my brother said, you know what, I'm not going to school. I'm going to become a professional video game player. And my parents resisted for a while, but, you know, they let him. They gave him full access to internet. They just let him do his own thing because my parents realized from a middle school or from elementary school, like, we were special. We were something else, and that they didn't know how to raise us.
Right.
And honestly, we developed a lot of issues because of that because my dad didn't... He could have been more hands-on, but he was more like hands-off, and I guess what me and my brothers talk about a lot, and a lot like we see dads being like more in touch with their sons, and it goes like, and we long for that, I guess. But I guess my dad gave us the space to be ourselves,
and that's something that we talk about too. Having young kids, like how much time should you spend with them? How much should you let them? Because it's, you know, given the if your dad didn't have to work or whatever, and he had, you know, all the time in the world to play with you or whatever, you might reflect back on it and go like, oh fuck, dad was so overbearing, or, you know, he was always
Grass
there.
is always greener.
And
exactly.
maybe the time spent was quality time. You know, time you spent with your dad's quality time, and if he's always there, it's not quality time. It's just
Quality over quantity.
It's just hanging out, right?
Yeah.
We say often it's the same going home. We only go home for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, but it's better than being home all the time.
Yeah.
You're home for 2 years. You don't even say hello to each other waking up in the morning. You just get out, go to your job, come home.
And with your dad working too, he's showing you a strong work ethic, which I think you've picked up, right?
Yeah.
And that's not something maybe he sat down and said like, listen, see me, I got my PhD, moving 10 countries, crushing my job, and I want you to do it. But it's kind of something that you see him doing, and you're walking a similar path.
No, he taught me by example, and he encouraged my love of books. Like, if I asked for a book, my dad would instantly buy it because he...
Playboy?
Yeah, no. he thought it was the best habit in the world to read books, and
I agree with him.
Yeah, and that would be buried in a book every time we went for a drive or wherever we went, and my dad encouraged that.
It's a new world in there, man.
Yeah, it is.
In a book.
It is a new.
So now I'm curious, what does your younger brother do?
Exactly. My big brother is a professional video game player, and I do my own stuff with Ryan at Dr. English, organizing meetups and all
That's
my-
enough plugs
all that
for
stuff.
one. That's enough plugging his goddamn business.
And you have, and then we have my little brother who is trying to become the next Banksy.
What's
Wow.
a Banksy?
Banksy.
I don't know.
Artist, no?
Yeah, the graffiti artist.
Sure.
Well, that shows how cultured I am. My awesome education is.
Didn't he
Banksy.
just do an abandoned fishing boat or something?
I know.
And then it caught fire?
Yeah, and he does
He
his,
painted it bright pink?
well, yeah.
Google this. Yeah.
Banksy is, the graffiti artist, the performance artist who very much, he doesn't reveal his identity because he's going against the culture of, like...
And wasn't his also the picture that went at the auction for unreal amount, and then
exactly, it got shredded.
and shredded?
And my little brother, he loves that. You see, my big brother...
I think
Yeah.
I think Banksy is an incredible inspiration. It's not something that people have seen a lot of, and it's very untraditional.
It is.
And it'll inspire a lot of people.
It is. I mean, me and my brothers, we all went through the same experiences, but we came out of it such different paths.
Yeah.
Because my big brother, he was the one thing, like, we went to all these countries, but he kept winning awards. He kept winning contests. He kept getting the best grades. And I guess he internalized that, winning being the best because he is the eldest brother, and there was a lot of expectations on him. And I guess that instinct, that desire is inside.
And it must be incredible because Korea is probably one of the hardest countries in the world to be the best at.
Yeah.
Because everybody's trying. In Canada, lots of people aren't trying to be the best. They're just trying to do their thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in Korea, everybody's trying
I've
to be
seen
their
some of
best.
this Banksy before.
Yeah, and then he did that, and he became an incredible League of Legends player. I mean, they measured his response time, and it was under 0.2 seconds, and I'm like, my God, and then I was like, my God, but
Lucky he's not in Texas with that kind of reaction speed, eh?
yeah, but then he leveled off, kind of. He plateaued, and he got booted off the teams a lot, and he argued with people, and he kind of got a little toxic because that instinct is a little bit toxic because my brother is just like me. He struggles to be accepted. He struggles to... Because it comes, the desire to win, it comes from a place of insecurity. Like, if you don't win, if you're not the best, then you're not going to be accepted or loved. You'll only be celebrated if you're number one. And
which is a huge social issue in Korea.
Exactly. And League of Legends, it's a team game. There's a coach, there's 5 players. And so my brother used to be a player, but then he got constantly booted off teams. So his TSM, the original team, brought him on as a coach. And he kept clashing with people because he had a lot of issues, and it got worse and worse, and until he couldn't be hired anymore.
But sometimes that drive works against you, right?
It does. And seeing like how he is on social media, I guess he lost a bit of that fire, and now he's like a content creator. And you can see him constantly getting into arguments with people online, and him being attacked and getting into immature arguments, and
he's gotta take a page from the book of Little Brother.
I don't think he ever will, but in a way I want him to succeed in his own way. I want him to, because he has so much talent and he has so much to give, but
absolutely. And sometimes, man, it's not. Sometimes it doesn't click until you're 30 or 40, right?
It's just finding the place where you are appreciated, where you do fit in, where you are welcomed. And sometimes you have to try for a long time before you reach that point.
It is. And I guess how I grew up was that I wanted to... I guess the simplest way to put me in one sentence is I want to try to make a kinder world. And I want to recognize that there are people who came before me, and they have their own visions, and they have this own foundation, that there are things that I've taken for granted, and I want to build on that. Like Andre, he started the meetups here, and if he hadn't started the meetups here, I probably wouldn't have my job. I probably wouldn't have gotten so far as a software developer. But he mentored me, he gave me a place to grow, and he made me free code camp, Ursan admin, and he helped me learn how to manage, and I help manage to organize the meetups now. And yeah, he helped me to grow a lot, and he had this vision of the foreign teachers here, not just being foreign teachers, but to be able to get jobs as developers.
Well, we've tried to advocate that for years, that we're not just teachers. Like we can do a lot of stuff. I mean, we run the NGO. Yeah. He used to fight Muay Thai in Korea. I coach 2 hockey teams. It's not just every white person or every foreigner you see is either a international student or a teacher. And I wonder before how many engineers got confused for being teachers and stuff.
Yeah.
When there were so many engineers here, if you were caught in Mugadong as an engineer, you go, where do you teach, at a Hagwon? Yeah. No, I make $500,000 as an engineer at the shipyard.
Which Hagwon do you teach in Samson?
Yeah. And so I guess I inherited that vision from him, and I try to continue that dream of teaching people to code. So we have people at university who are computer science majors. We have Ben, who was an English professor, but he's 40, 50, and he's transitioning to be a software developer, and he built an entire app almost by himself. And I am amazed at that, and I'm inspired by that, and I am like proud to call myself a fellow FCC Ursan admin, because his maturity, the way that he does things, I wish more of that would rub off on me.
And I worked with Ben for a year at Unist, my last year, his first year. But I mean, we've known each other for years and years and years here. But I really like that he took the bull by the horns, and he's writing his own story, and he's in control of the transition, not so many people that get stuck here and stuck in the rut, and they just sit back and wait for stuff to happen
Yeah.
instead of going out and making it happen. And he really took the pen in his own hand, and he's writing his own story, which is, I really commend him for that, and I admire him that he's taken the necessary steps to do what he wants to do, not let someone else choose what he has
And
to
he's
do.
been here. Sorry, he's been here for a while too, and we've had older friends who have told me, being the youngest usually in the group, that Korea can it can be like a sticky honey pot, like where you come in, it's good, it's easy money, but as you get older, you should start looking at other alternatives. And,
Yeah. Yeah, and we joke around a lot, like Ben used to be drinking buddies with King Sejong or something. He's been here so long.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
We've seen the evolution of Ulsan over the years, and it's been a wild ride. I mean, there's been a lot of changes.
It is awesome to see him doing that. And something I realized, I saw Nate go through and do his master's degree. I'm watching Ben, learn to code. I don't know what his experience was like before, but I started my master's last year, and 2 weeks in, I thought, oh man, I'm not doing this. It's a 2-year program. There's no way I'm doing this. This is crazy. What am I doing? And then I don't know where I heard it, but they said in 2 years you're going to be 2 years older, whether you do the work or not. Like, I'm going to turn 37 in 2 years, whether I wanted to put the work in and have a master's then, or the time's not stopping for anyone. So
Yeah, and I totally get that. I mean, at Ben's age, everyone would say, no, you can't make a career change or stuff like that. But he signed up for a boot camp, and he has to get up at like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. But he puts in that hard work and effort and that dedication, and I admire that
absolutely
so much.
That's something for everyone to aspire to, man. And it's never these days, man. Well, I mean, if you have any experience with computers or whatnot, you can jump into that. It takes maybe a year to get your feet wet, but I think there's lots of opportunity. I grew up in a place where I thought if I didn't land a job that would last my whole life, like I felt very insecure living at home and thinking like, oh, my job could whatever job I chose to get, it could go away tomorrow, and I carried that here forever, man. And that,
Like you said, Sky and I came in 2003, and man, that's all anyone talked about or thought about was Sky and Hyundai, especially here in Ulsan, Hyundai SK, LG, and that was your only options. If you didn't do that, you were seen as a complete failure.
Yeah.
Because, but even back then, the companies have changed a lot. But man, Hyundai would sell you cars at 35% off. They own their own resorts, and you get free passes to the ski resorts, to the water park resorts. They pay for your kids' education.
Yeah.
I mean, it was seen as if you made it there, you're set.
Yeah.
Because you're taken care of. But now that the rest of Korea's kind of caught up, and now everyone's kind of educated, and there's a lot more options, it's a little bit different. It doesn't run the same way anymore.
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think just people are, maybe it's just the newer generation, but people are realizing maybe going, and nothing against a factory worker, but it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone to go in and use the machine and then come home. I worked in a factory, and it is the one definite positive of it is once you're done work, you go home. I'm not thinking about work. When I finish a class here, I come. Man, teaching it's always on your mind. What am I teaching next? What do I have to prep? What it's always, that's one kind of downfall. But I find great satisfaction in creating, and whether it's materials or, I mean, we're doing the We Hope or this awesome podcast, which you should subscribe to. Right?
I think something that we've kind of tried to open people's eyes to, or open moms' eyes to, because they're the mostly responsible for their kids' education here, is if you look at the happiness index or the quality of life, it doesn't matter if you go to Sky, if you get a job and you hate your life. You're way better off being a baker or a mechanic or something else and loving what you do every day and having a high quality of life. And if you look at the countries where the quality of life or the happiness index is very high, they don't have all those pressures like Korea has. I mean, it's a...
But how much of the push from moms is from their insecurities or, you know, their inability to deal with other moms who are, my kid's in this hagwon, my kid's in that hagwon. How many moms have the backbone to stand up and say, you know what? My kid's doing his own thing.
It's the same as you walk in the other path. I used to ask the moms, did you go to Sky? No.
And you're still alive.
Then why do you insist your kid goes? Did you get Bectom on all your tests? No. Then why are you expecting her to?
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like, yeah, you're right.
Well, yeah, and if I can touch on that, like recently, like you guys have found me on Facebook. A lot of people have found me on Facebook, and you guys weren't the only people to approach me. And there was a investment firm in Seoul, and they saw I could do data analysis, and that I did coding, and that I was bilingual. And so they made me a very lucrative job offer, I guess. And it was a lot of money. And I actually turned it down because I saw that and I realized that I would get swallowed up by this company. I would do one thing there constantly, analyzing numbers, and I would just be a human calculator, and I would be well compensated. I would get a lot of money, but that's the only thing I would do and stuff like that.
You need a balance.
Yeah, and it would have been very stressful because I would have had to adapt. I don't like the Korean work culture. I don't like the hierarchy of this person is above me. This person I have to. Have you ever
go to the human calculator, but your first 6 months we spent getting coffees and fetching papers for the higher ups.
Exactly.
Getting shit faced on a Tuesday.
Yeah. Have you ever read Outliers?
I think it's no, we got the.
Well, yeah, it's by Malcolm Gladwell,
Yeah.
and there's this very interesting case study about how Korean Airlines used to be one of the most dangerous airlines.
Okay.
Because they used
I've read excerpts and stuff on their stuff.
Are submissive to the
Exactly. There's a 4-man team in the cockpit, but because of the Korean culture of hierarchy, when the main pilot, the captain, is tired or whatever, needs the co-pilot to take over, the co-pilot can't contradict the main pilot, the captain. He can't say, you know, maybe we're headed toward a mountain, maybe you should let me take over. He can't say that.
Right.
Go get my mixed coffee.
Exactly. So Korean Airlines instantly switched that. If you're going to work for us, you have to speak English. There's no Korean spoken at all.
Well, because the language it's a hierarchical
Exactly.
language, right?
And there's this thing called code switching, like depending on what language you're speaking in, your personality, the way you approach things, it changes, and it worked. Korean Airlines became one of the most dangerous to one of the safest ever because it went from that hierarchical to the more horizontal organization where the co-pilots, whichever, instead of saying something like in 존댓말, in the formal language, hey, could you please let me take over? I was like, hey, you're tired, go take a break. I'll handle this from now. You can just say that.
Yeah.
I imagine doing that at the Korean investment firm about say, yes, sir, whatever, sir. You know what? You're actually wrong because I'm right about these numbers, but I wouldn't be able to contradict people. Right. I wouldn't be able to say, I'm smarter, I know this.
I mean, you could, but you just get tossed out the window.
Exactly.
Taken out with the trash.
Exactly. So I turned that down. And a lot, and
Good for you.
And I told that to a lot of people, and they goes like, how could you turn down that so much money? And I goes like, and I had to explain that I would be in hell.
But it is you're getting compensated for it probably pays that much because it's shit and you don't and most people wouldn't enjoy it.
But in Korea there's a lot of those jobs that don't pay well, that are very taxing, mentally taxing. I was teaching a young woman who's now working at a small company up in Seoul, and she sent me back. I was training her for interviews and stuff, and she said, I don't get any days off. And she said in the contract it said I get weekends off and I get 2 weeks vacation, and she says I get none. And somehow someone from Amazon found her on what's it called? LinkedIn. Found her on LinkedIn and said, hey, you sound like someone we'd be interested in. We'd like to call you in for an interview. And she goes, what should I do? I said, absolutely. Tell your boss you're sick today and go for the interview and go and meet him. So she's going through that process now, but she said, I would do anything to get out of this. I work 12 hours a day, and she's not compensated well for it. I mean, when it takes up your whole day, every day of your life, it's terrible.
We used to we both worked a lot, man, in our early years, and we look back, man, like there was no there was it was fun teaching, but I mean it's not as satisfying as doing a podcast like this or having an afternoon off. Or
but I was also a lot more immature back then, and that's when it was work party.
Yeah.
Now I'm married with kids and I don't need to do that stuff. So I got it all out of my system then.
Yeah. And do you guys know Pals and John Worth by any chance?
Yes.
Yeah, he actually approached. Well, yeah, there was this incident. I think you guys saw it on Ulsan Online where this girl was in a car accident and she needed negative blood, and I offered to do translations for anyone willing to donate blood. And John Worth, I guess he wanted to help out, but he was trying to insert himself as much as he can into the situation. And I guess, yeah, I get it. He wants to help out. He wants to do what he can. This girl's life's in danger, and foreigners can help because, what is it? Positive blood is, yeah, everyone has positive blood in Korea, and only foreigners, it's negative blood is, yeah, because of the blood typing. Anyway, and he was doing that, and I guess he's a good guy. Everyone says he helps a lot, but the way that he says stuff, like, there was this ego and this insecurity about, like, I'm not just some kind of guy on the street, whatever. And then he was, like, talking down to me and then saying, like, I run an organization of 1,000 people or whatever, and I was on the phone, and it was a misunderstanding. Like, I was doing something, and instead of him trying to learn the situation, he just, barked like that at me.
Sure.
And then I had to calm him down and to explain the situation. And he was like, oh no, I'm sorry. And then he did that. But his first instinct to do that. And then he tries to recruit me. And then he was going through a certain bad situation where he was actually attacked online on Facebook. And I see him helping people. I see him volunteer organization. And I see a lot of people saying that John Worth has done so much. But there's a way that he's not even in Korea right now. And he's trying to, like, control the organization, manage the organization. I was like, so why don't you have other people manage it or delegate? And it's like those, and he says, if I don't do it, nothing will get done. And I see that ego, and I see that unwillingness to step down, and I see that, and I turned him down because, like, and he wanted me to join his organization. I was like, no, I can't do that. And he goes like, let me tell you about some people who did certain who advocate for me and whatever and stuff like that. And he goes like, no. And he said, please don't message me again or I will block you. And then I had to do that. So for me, it's not just about money or it's not just about helping people. It's just like there's certain character,
right?
Yeah, that, and like what you were saying, what Nate, you were saying, like certain people, they chase it for the glory, I guess, helping people. They want to show off that they're a good person. They want to they enjoy it a little bit too much. They see, like, I help people, I'm the savior and stuff like that, and they want to be viewed like that. And I look at it and go like, why? And I couldn't join, and I couldn't join Pals, and yeah, but Ryan, he also reached out to me, and then he asked if I could design logos and do the stuff. But I'm sure you guys have.
He's really rich. Make sure he's compensating you as much as the statistics company up in Seoul there.
I'm sure you guys have 100 stories about him, and everyone does.
100? No, that's just from last week.
And everyone does, but from my experience, the way he's treated me, even though I'm younger than him. And a lot of people and he's welcomed me into his company, and a lot of people would try to manage me and say, like, I'm in charge, it's like, you do it my way and stuff like that. And we definitely do it Ryan's way a lot, but he lets my talents thrive, I guess.
We say, if you hire someone that's the same as you, then they're useless. You gotta hire someone that's better than you.
Yeah, and
because why would I hire someone that's the same as me? I can already do it. I want to hire someone who's better than me,
exactly,
who can do what I can't do.
Exactly.
And then I have to be open to listening to your recommendations and suggestions.
Exactly. Yeah, and I see the way he manages his teachers. Like, he's firm on it. Like, please, he's like, be on time. Let's clear that up. So he has this firm way of managing, but he's also kind, and he's also lets people be themselves. I mean, I see a couple of teachers be their own silly selves with their emojis and their little jokes on the group chat, and a lot of managers, a lot of bosses would go like, hey, cut that out. This is professional stuff.
Yeah. Being kind and understanding and having empathy are some qualities that are severely lacking. They're not helped at all by what's going on in America.
Yeah.
But they're essential to having a peaceful place to live.
Yes.
If we can't understand and we can't listen to each other and have empathy for people, I mean, sometimes it's not their fault. I mean, I was very ignorant to the facts when I was younger that just because someone looks this way or does this, you don't know why they're in that situation. And now every time before I think of judging or criticizing or thinking, I think, just hold back, because you don't know what's going on in that person's life. And these days, there's so much stuff going on in people's lives.
There are.
You got to be empathetic. You got to be able to be understanding and see other people. I think you would agree that traveling the world and being in all these places opens your eyes and humbles you and allows you to be open to taking things for what they're worth and not just assuming, guessing, and stereotyping.
Yeah, and just as I was saying about like how I try to follow people's visions and dreams, like Ryan has this like, he's been teaching English a lot for companies and stuff like that. And he has this desire, because he doesn't like the rote learning all the Hagwons do. He doesn't like the constant tests, just trying to get that. And just, repeating the same thing over and over and over. He wants an actual mastery, actual being competent in English. So, and I see that and goes like, yeah, Korea needs that bad, because you tell a Korean to take a test or whatever and they get really good scores, but you tell a Korean to actually have a conversation with someone and they're like
just applying applying knowledge. But
exactly. And he has that, and he has a company where there's this, I guess, company culture of people letting their talents thrive and letting them be themselves. I mean, I should be at work right now, but he's letting me come onto the podcast, and
because he wants free advertising. No, but it sounds like his approach to management. It's something that I was actually just doing in one of my readings. It's the approach sounds like Love and Logic, where you have your strict boundaries, like you said, no coming late, no smoking in the Hagwon, but within here you have the freedom to express yourself or to use your talents as you see fit, right?
Yeah, and you've seen this marketing material that I'm showing, and he's let my talents thrive, and
I find giving space, and that's something, reflecting back, I had I might have talked about it on here before, but a Hagwon that I worked at, it was a friend of my wife's that hired me, and I had to be there for 5 hours a day, but my teaching hours were sometimes one or two, and I had all of the resources, all of the materials, and the lady explained, like, listen, on your off time, do whatever you want. You want to watch a movie today? Watch a movie. You want to create something new? Here's some ideas for a new class. What do you think? And it was paid, but I had never had that experience of being paid just to kind of sit back and think, like, what's next? Most Hagwons are, you teach this class and then this one and then this one, you get 10 minutes to eat, and then this one. Giving a creative person the space to explore or create. Man, that's Ryan's got it nailed down there.
He does. And you guys talked about the Korean approach, that rutted path, right? And I agree fully with that. But I know that I can't do a lot. But what I can do is walk my own path and try to be as successful as possible, because I have so many friends who are kyopos, who are multiracial, who are like me, who are Korean, but spend so much time in the West that it's become so much and they have a hard time acclimating. And you come here. Korea's a great country. We have great healthcare, we have nature, we have good infrastructure and a lot of stuff, but we're so conformist. Everyone dresses the same. Everyone drives the same.
But that's I think that's due to the fact that the rise to prosperity was so fast, and I believe it's only Korea and Israel who have developed as quickly as they have under, like, every other country averages around 100 years, I believe, from developing nation to developed, and Korea and Israel both made it in less than 50, I believe, and that's part of the process of that, right? I mean, now the thinking is catching up to the modern shell that Samsung, Hyundai, LG have provided.
How about this? I like to shit on every kid wearing a North Face coat and everything. It just had the. And I mean, it's standard, like you said. Everyone wants to have the same stuff. How about this for a positive approach. If you're not worried so much about what you're wearing, or it sounds like a mouse. Sounds like a mouse in here. If you don't have to worry about standing out or like you said, getting hammered back down in a place as the guy standing out, maybe that frees up more time to think about other stuff.
Yeah, and that's why I really want. I'm sorry to keep plugging. I'm sorry to be.
No, I'll delete all this after.
We'll send him the bill.
Yeah, but that's why I want Dr. English to succeed, because we're not following the Korean style, the Eastern, I guess, that rutted path to success. Ryan's doing his own American Western way, as he keeps saying it. But if this succeeds, it shifts Korean society to a little, for me to do it my little Western way, to go against YBN, Pagoda. If Dr. English's Western style can succeed, and the way that he wants to make it provide value to people, because he's providing lessons on mobile, on computers, and I'm trying to help as much as I can. But if you can actually do that and if this succeeds, then it shifts Korean society a little. To see someone like me who doesn't go to Sky, didn't graduate university, but to be able to use my skills, which I didn't even take like a graphic design course or a marketing or business course. I literally just learned it from
doing.
Yeah, doing. And
sometimes that's the best way. You don't
Everybody
need,
learns
you don't need
differently,
the
and a little emulation, a little immersion, because I saw Andre like using Inkscape to make this little sticker and then stuff like that, and I asked him to teach me how, and then I started doing my own stuff. And I have a lot of friends who are in marketing or in business, and I talk to them about so much, and I guess I absorb that knowledge and things like that, and I try to do my best to apply it. It's
surround yourself with with positive people.
Exactly, but
you'll get it.
Yeah, and they're all English teachers, and I'm like, you guys have so much potential, and I want to do so much. And yeah, that's why I want this to succeed, because if I can succeed doing it in a Western way without walking that rutted path, it blazes the trail a little for the Kyopos, for the multiracial kids, for the Western style Korean stuff like that.
Okay, I want to transition back to you came back from Dubai. You're back in Korea. Are you from Ulsan originally?
No, I'm from this town called Anyang. Not
okay.
Onyang next to Ulsan, called Anyang in Gyeonggi-do.
Yeah. And
that was my hometown. But what is it? KNOC moved their headquarters here because I guess it's cheaper, and they wanted Ulsan to stimulate Ulsan's economy. So my dad moved here.
Okay, so that's what I was just wondering that part, and my question was going to be, like I said earlier, you came on the Ulsan Online, which is the foreign community online here, like a bat out of hell. Where did you come from? How long were you here before you popped up like a whack-a-mole in Ulsan Online there? Like, what were you doing? Like you said, were you hiding, or where did you come from? And tell us a little bit about the thinking or the process. Like, you're sticking your neck out.
I am.
Like, people are ready to smash you down when you come into our comfort zone, our safe space, and you're providing lots of information, but I know there's a lot of skeptics out there wondering, who is this guy? What's his qualification? I saw lots of guys questioning you. Are you a scientist? Are you a data analyst? Who are you? What are you? And you quickly diffused the situations calmly.
I have read these 8 medical journals, which I've cited, at the bottom of my post,
which people can't dispute. So, just tell us a little bit about, where did you come from? Why did you feel the need at that specific point to come in, and now that you seem to have gained the trust and respect of the community, how does it feel?
Well, if I'm being entirely honest, I didn't want to stay in Korea. I didn't want to be the outsider here. So I was in Vancouver, and I got my 2 years associate degree, and I was going to apply for permanent residence status. And there's a long story there, but
another time, next time.
Yeah, my nickname in college was Mom. because whenever they used to hold parties, I used to make sure everybody drank water, and I used to make sure people got home safe. Like, when people were passed out, I made sure there was like a glass of water next to them, and I made sure to put a blanket over them if it was too cold and stuff like that. And everyone used to call me Mom because I make sure they.
That's why Ryan hired you.
Yeah, I'd make sure they get to class and everything. I make sure they go to class and everything, because this was Vancouver. There was a bunch of international kids who were just acting out, and who were away from their comfort zone, away from their families, and didn't have their structure.
Absolutely.
And I used to make chili, make food and stuff like that, but
Make chili.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Going
And
back to Texas.
yeah, and well, an issue was I had a doctor's appointment for a condition I had, but instead of going to it, I helped a friend out with their visa application, and I should have gone to that doctor's appointment, but I guess I'm a little bit too self-sacrificing, and my health condition got worse, and I was actually hospitalized for a while. And
In Canada?
yeah, and during my permanent residency application, because I was in the hospital and I wasn't in fit medical condition, I was rejected, and I had to come back.
And when you came back to Ulsan or back to Anyang?
I was in Bundang, which is where my family lives, and
You're
I
in all
was,
the hockey cities, man. Anyang and Bundang are great for playing hockey.
and I was kind of depressed for a while because I felt like I'd failed. Like
At 22.
at 22, I failed because I wanted to continue and get my degree, and I wanted to. And I was really depressed for a while. I felt like a shell of myself, and my dad goes like, "Hey, I'm in Ulsan. Why don't you apply for Ulsan University? They'll accept you because you had your associates and you have a good TOEFL or TOEIC score." And at that time, I wasn't really making decisions for myself. I was just trying to get through the day, and I said okay. And I went to Ulsan University, and I felt that same hammered down, the same culture of just completely beat me down. I was absolutely depressed, and I just couldn't take it anymore. And so I told Dad, I'm dropping out. I can't do it anymore. And I dropped out, and I was really, really depressed for a while. And like I spent a lot, and I had insomnia, and I couldn't sleep even for an hour during the day. Like I hated the sound of birds because I would used to be in my bed and I would be trying to fall asleep, but I'd hear the sound of birds, and I was like, I didn't sleep at all today.
Listen, I'll punch a crow right in the face. Dude, I hate crows. And you know what? My kid makes crow noises too.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah,
burns me.
and I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't studying. I wasn't reading. I wasn't improving myself. I was actually playing Pokemon Go, and I was just walk around. I would walk around the entirety of Ulsan and just playing Pokemon Go, and that's actually how I know like most of the cool places to go around Ulsan, because I spent time at like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. just walking around playing Pokemon Go, just like walking wherever I could go, like a dead man walking.
Yeah.
And
But I don't know,
And then
it's like-
Corona came and saved you.
not
No.
well.
But I think I think you have a mind that you think maybe you should always be making progress or always be moving forward. But I was the same, man, and there was a solid year of my life where it was like, put the brakes on, take care of mental health, and then get back at it, because you can be as strong in your body or as good at your at what you do, but if your mental health goes, which you have no control over, man, and we've talked about it before, but there's no sympathy for you break your arm, it's your poor arm. Hey, listen, I'm feeling a little depressed. Go sort that shit out by yourself. That is the feeling I got, anyways. But
yeah, and then like one day I was still walking around like a zombie, and then it was around Tewaru, and I just could see the sunrise, and I just during that moment I just realized there's something there. There's like I don't know, it's the human spirit. Is it?
I think you made a post on that.
Yeah, is it hope or is it something? But there's something that you just can't be taken away from you.
Right.
Maybe it's human dignity. Maybe it's something that's hard to describe and put into words. But in that moment of absolute abject misery, I just saw the sunrise, and I just realized
life's not so bad.
it's not that life's so bad. It's just like there's something inside of me. There's something that can't be taken away.
Yeah.
And I just realized that I just wanted to do something for my life, and so I thought, why not learn the code? And actually, that's how I found Ulsan online, because first I found Free Code Camp Busan, and then through there I found Ulsan. And while I was just googling Ulsan on Facebook groups, I found Ulsan online, which was pretty big, and I just joined.
How
that.
long ago was that?
I think that was like last year, November or October or something like
So
that.
you were just getting your feet wet,
Yeah.
and then Corona came and that now you've kind of become like I would say mini celebrity. I mean, everyone, if we talked about Corona and who's helping, I mean, you and Professor Shin, I mean, have been invaluable to the foreigners' understanding of what's going on here. So you started the code camp?
Yeah, and well, it's not really a boot camp or anything. It's just a meetup.
Yeah.
And I met Andre there, and
Networking,
I met,
right?
Yeah, Ben
Meeting
there,
people, yeah.
Ben there, and they gave me a place to grow. And actually, I consulted with them on a lot of my posts, and I asked Ben and Andre a lot, and they actually nixed. They actually said, no, don't post this a lot. So I can't take all the credit for all that because they've given me input.
Through the Benny's filter.
Yeah, and Andre, he also has a biology degree. His degree is in genetics, and we talk about it a lot, and we share interests. But yeah, a lot of I know it's ridiculous to say, I do my research on the internet and I post on Facebook, and as soon as you hear that, you goes like, this guy is bullshit. But
no, man, you've helped a lot, and like you said, squashed a lot of small-minded posts and angry people who are not directly angry at you or what you're posting, but just at the situation in general. And I think you brought a lot of good ideas, facts, and a sense of calm. I mean, your posts it's never doom and gloom, man. It always has a positive spin. Listen, we're at level, what's it? Level 1 is the lowest, or does it go 3?
Level 1's the lowest.
Okay, we're at level 1.5. Hey, this is good, but don't get too comfortable. Keep your mask on. Don't be stupid, and we're gonna be fine. I expect, dude, your predictions. I expect the numbers to be reduced by by this many or that many. It's comforting, man. It's comforting to know that someone's doing the work for me, I guess.
What is it like injecting yourself into? I mean, that group's been going since the pair, so God, probably 10 years at least.
Well, yeah.
What is it like? I mean, coming in there like a fire. I just remember going, who is this guy? Holy man!
Like a bat out of hell.
He must have drank 6 buckhus for breakfast. Where did he get all this info from? And then I think maybe I clicked your profile or something like, and he seems pretty young. Like there's some wild personalities on here, man. I hope someone doesn't chew him out, or if they do, I hope he can take it, understand that not everybody's like that, or he can handle the criticism. But what was it like interjecting yourself into that group and becoming part of the team?
Well, I wasn't. Well, not all of it was great because I've had a couple of arguments with people and I made a few mistakes. And
that's it. You're banned.
Cancel.
Yeah, I'm really glad. If Jason Teal, if you're listening to this, then thank you for the understanding and the leeway you've given me. I'm really grateful for it.
Yeah.
Well, then I should come clean too, because he had contacted me and said, "What do you think?" Because there's been some issues, some problems, whatever. And I said, "Listen, the positives outweigh the negatives. I mean, he's too valuable to. We gotta, he's very valuable to the foreign community. So, yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well done, Jay, and well played."
Yeah. Thank you. And
J and K.
Yeah, honestly, but it was the right thing at the right time. You could say that, like, I had biology, I had English, I had Korean, I had a little bit of research because I went to university, but research skills, but all of that, it was chance, I guess. It was the right person at the right time.
The planets aligned. Yeah. And you don't want to say fate or whatnot, but if you're prepared and the opportunity presents itself, then it's not luck or anything. You were prepared. It's the same as if you get a pile of money and a good investment comes up.
If you were looking at the group prior to posting, going, "Holy man, everyone's scared shitless on here. No one knows what's actually going on. There's a lot of misinformation." It's an easier point maybe to come in than if there was already 3 experts on there, say, or something. So yeah, I think the timing was probably ideal.
What I'm really grateful for is how the foreigner community accepted me, because like after a couple of arguments, after a couple of correcting misinformation, after being attacked, I actually had to take a mental health break because I was checking Facebook. I had the app on my phone and I was checking it like every 5 minutes, and I was like, God, I hope this doesn't get out of control. God, I hope this because I was worried because I heard stories about like some because in a church in Korea they sprayed salt water, and that is how coronavirus spread. And some people in the Middle East, they drank like grain ethanol alcohol trying to cure coronavirus, and they died. And some people doing like salt mist whatever, and I had to make salt, and I had to ask some people to take some stuff down. I had to report some stuff to Jason, and it was getting to me. It was getting to me because it was a lot to handle, and I had to take a break. And I informed that, and I had to say, Professor Shim has a lot of good information. Jason is riding the ship. He's a good captain. Just I'm gonna take a break for a while, and everybody just poured their support, their comments, the likes, the hearts, and stuff like that. And
because we were like, where are you going?
Yeah.
you're like the lifeguard here. We need you.
Yeah,
where are you going?
Yeah, and I was so grateful for that, because to actually have that support and to actually know that there are people out there giving this appreciation.
And how many are reading the information and appreciating it and not commenting? I mean, right? The comments are just a small portion of the people who take the time to recognize you and to say thank you.
Yeah. And it was a lot. And even recently I actually had to delete Facebook app from my phone. Actually,
I did that. Yeah.
That's actually why I was so late to contact you guys, because I was like, you know what, I seriously can't do this anymore, because
Just have the messenger on there. That's the best.
maybe, but I also don't have Messenger. But I went through like a Facebook detox, and now I just access it through just the browser, and maybe I'll have the Messenger on there, but I'm trying to find a right balance, because
I refuse. Man, I was checking it every 6 hours, waiting for the elevator, turn it on. Doing this, turn it on.
Yeah.
But the messages, I think, for us anyways, it's pretty important to keep up to date.
Yeah, because I was doing so much, because I was posting on Ulsan Online. I was organizing a meetup here,
Yeah.
and I was organizing a Zoom meetup in Seoul.
Yeah.
I was working on the project with Ben, Inspector O, and
Yeah.
Jamie, and I was practicing guitar performance with Luca Stadler here.
Yeah.
And I was working for Dr. English, and I was working on 2 other personal projects in my time, and I was like,
That's something, man.
Burnout, you got to be careful, man.
yeah. So I had to take a step back, and I didn't even have a haircut for 4 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta take time for you, 100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I took a step back for a while, and I relaxed, and I chilled out, and I stepped back on a lot of stuff. And the project I'm working on, the app thing, Ben built it. Ben, freaking thank you. And Jamie Fraser, she's on our show. She took project lead on that. I asked her to take project lead on it, and she led the project. She brought on a graphic designer. She organized it, and then she helped make my vision come true. And I am so grateful. Jamie, if you're listening, you're an angel. I love you.
We'll tag her. We'll tag her in the episode there. But one thing, just before we close here, you read one of your posts on Facebook, and it says you approach life very analytically.
Yeah.
And I think you have a good balance for such a young guy, again, to bring up your age, but I think being very analytical and balancing that out with being very creative and with your data analysis paired with your design skills. And I saw you playing Elvis there on the
Music.
and music and having
Lakeside Ballad.
That's a good balance to have, man. And you got nothing but great potential for the future. And we hope to have you on again.
Yeah, I'd like to have you back regularly. Just you got so much insight, and I think you could provide a good perspective on lots of Korean things that there's other people that can, but maybe it's a lot harder for them. We speak the same language in terms of communication, not just the words coming out, because you've lived and had so many experiences. So I think it'd be great to have you back to discuss other things in maybe a little bit more depth and stuff. Especially the identity one is really fascinating, and a lot of us and like people like my kids, they're not sure yet if they tell mom they're Canadian. But then they go to Canada and say, I'm Korean. And then if we go live in a third country, they're kind of lost and kind of floating. And there's a lot of these people around now with the globalization of the world. And I like that one thing that you said. I searched for so long for finding a place where I have to belong. And now I've accepted I don't have to belong. I can just be myself wherever and do what I want to do. And I really like that.
Yeah.
Give us some closing remarks, or what do you have in store for the near future, and maybe a couple closing remarks.
Well, I have a lot of projects that I'm working on, and just like I mentioned, and I'm not doing them alone. I'm doing it with Ben. I'm doing with I don't know if you know Cast Stone, if you know India Rowell, but I'm also doing a project with them, and I'm doing a lot. So I guess stay tuned, and I will, guys. Nate, Brian, thank you for having me on. I will definitely come back. This was a really great experience.
Thanks.
And
Thanks a
listen,
lot
if
for
you
coming.
if you're worried about Dr. English telling you what hours to come in, we'll take care of it. He's gonna buy lunch next time. Anyways, guys, listen. Thanks for listening. We hope you guys enjoyed. I'm pumped to finally met you, man. So we'll do this again soon.
Yeah.
All right, dude. See you guys.